good afternoon. This is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon. And so now we need to talk about Toole, the Conservative Party, Candice Bergen, who is the new leader, and where we are going to go from here. So basically, Toole, who is the leader of the Canadian Conservative Party, was ousted by his own members in a leadership review because he has taken a very, very weak response to the truckers' convoy in Ottawa right now. He's refused to go and contact them. And anyway, I believe that the other members of his party see the sharks circling in the water, and pretty much led by Pierre Poilievre, but Candice Bergen is there too. They are leading a bit of a revolt, and Pierre Poilievre has talked to the truckers and basically said he's in complete support of all of the things that they do, that this is indeed a non-violent, peaceful protest, and that these people have a legitimate right to be where they are, and that they're just regular, ordinary, working folk who've been decimated by the lockdowns and all of the consequent things that have unfolded since then. Okay, so what I would like to remind people here is really what we're talking about now in world politics is you are either on the globalist side or you're on the populist side. And populist, of course, is something that's been now associated with white supremacists, and it's not. I really wish people would, pay attention to these kind of bizarre connections that are being made. A populist government is a government that is popular with the people. It has interest in the people's interests, and that is what makes them popular. Okay, so all of the House of Commons, with exception of maybe a handful people who've gone against this narrative for the last 700 days. Okay, so all of the people in the House of Commons have supported at some point the lockdowns, the masks, the mandatory vaccinations, the vaccine passports. And you have a group of people now, the Conservatives, who are suddenly smelling blood in the water. And boy, oh boy, they're jumping on the bandwagon and they're changing their narrative pretty quick. Well, where were you 700 days ago? I mean, okay, 700 days is a little long. It's a little harsh. I will forgive you the first lockdown. I think we could all accept that it was a very new thing at that time. Nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew how this was going to affect anything. Yes, after that first lockdown, if you didn't know that the lockdowns had not achieved what they said they were going to achieve, and you maintained, we've had three more lockdowns since then. 3 more lockdowns. Okay, so that's one issue. But we now know that Justin Trudeau is a globalist. He is a pupil or a student of Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. So is Chrystia Freeland. So is Jagmeet Singh. He's the leader of the NDP. So is Andrew Scheer. So is Stephen Harper. Peter MacKay, I did some research on him. He's with the Stanford Global Energy Strategy, and this is a globalist group think tank as to how we're going to work out our energy issues. So, Michelle Rempel, she is associated with the World Economic Forum. She was picked by Klaus Schwab himself. So there you go. You see, these globalists are in both parties, and the NDP, all three. And, probably the Bloc Québécois too. Green Party, I just don't trust any of them. So think on that. Think on that when we are going to go to the elections again. So we need a solution. The truckers are in a situation of leverage. Okay, they have some real power right now, and if they can stand their line, they will be able to negotiate. The government will give in the end. And so what I'm suggesting, we need 2 things, because you're not going to get rid of Trudeau, his government, the Liberals, the Conservatives, however much you might want to change that, that's not realistic. You also need something that is easy to implement, something that is going to be acceptable to the vast majority of the public, and something that prevents this kind of situation from happening again. And there are two things. There are two things that we can do very, very quickly. The first one is proportional representation. This would at least give your vote a count. It would completely change the political landscape, because the way this works, I believe, is that every vote is tallied across the entire nation. And if, say, for example, the Greens garner 7% of the vote, they get 7% of the seats. If the Liberals got 30% of the votes, they get 30% of the seats, and so on and so forth. But every vote would count, and it would be almost impossible to get a majority government. And because of that, it would force all of the parties to work together. It would force all of the parties to keep the civil service in line, which is another huge issue in all of this. Okay, and it would ensure that everything had to be under public scrutiny, because no single party could get anything done without proving beyond any reasonable doubt that it was in the best interests of everybody to follow that particular plan. Okay, so that really kind of holds things in place. I think it will give you a good level platform, a fairer platform. And the second thing we need to have in that, which basically binds the two together, is the right to recall. You have the right to recall any politician, any prime minister who you feel is not acting in the best interest of the public, and we can set up the ground rules. This is not the first time the right of recall has been brought up, and so there are ways. There are, how many people, how many letters, what percentage of the populace has to write in to get that right of recall to happen. But it has to be fair, honest, above board, and transparent. So these are some things that we can do very, very quickly, because we need to have an election immediately. That's what the truckers need to insist on, is an immediate election, proportional representation, and the right of recall. That way the people can choose if they want to re-elect the politicians who followed the narrative for the last 700 days and basically destroyed their lives and their economy and achieved absolutely zip because of it. And we need to deal with the civil service, because the three top layers of the civil service, somewhere in there, have slithered in, and this is a globalist layer that now controls the entire civil service below it. And they can be controlled, but you need an extremely strong politician who knows that they need to step on those senior civil servants, because right now those senior civil servants have got the politicians wrapped up and in their pocket. And that's the problem. I watched this happen for decades. And this is a decades-long plan. This is why it's going to be so difficult to crack this nut. But I think if we seize the moment and we force new elections, proportional representation, the right of recall, and elect strong new politicians with a mandate to rein in the civil service and to bring this country back in line with common sense and what the public truly desires. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the issue. If you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe. Please share this video. I hope you can get this to maybe some of the organizers of the truckers convoy, because I think we need to act quickly on this, and this is a really workable solution that would be acceptable by everybody. So in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant afternoon, and we'll talk very, very shortly. You take care now. See ya. Bye.